welcome again to the channel Space Moose. We're getting into year 1982 in our set reviews. Surprisingly, there was only three space sets released that year. I don't count the very small sets with 2 minifigs only, because they were not proper sets. So only 3 sets, but when I show you exactly what was in those sets, you will realize that it was about quality, not quantity. There was few new parts in that year. One of the most important was introduction of balloon tires. This was the first set to use them, and there was 12 of them. They were twice as wide as the town sets tires. The diameter was the same as trucks in the town sets. Another innovation was new type of radar. The radar was 6 studs in diameter, and it was a webbed radar, not a full dish. Another new part was space gun, also used as a camera with a sight on the side. And there was one more novelty, but it was not very spacey. Mostly it was used in the town sets. It was a new type of hinge, very useful for roofs of vehicles. But I think that was the only spaceship to use this type of hinge. Okay, so let's get into the sets. So the smallest one, which was not small at all when you compare to the small sets from previous years. Set number 6880. As I said before, 12 balloon tires, and they were so closely packed together that they could act as a tracked chassis for the rover. And the rover itself was bristling with armament and equipment. In the front you had the movable arm with a grabber. Then there was a computer. Oddly, it was not accessible from the cockpit of the craft, but it was a very nice addition. Emblem of the classic space. Then you had 2 laser cannons, or kind of. Interestingly, the vehicle had a double steering system. You had one steering wheel for driving forward, one for the backward. This type of system was used in a real Swedish tank in late 60s or mid 60s probably, but that's a completely different story. Then you had the rotating radar, but there was the only problem with the design of this set was that the driver could be hit with the gun. All you had to do was to add an extra brick under the radar to raise it a little bit higher. Under the radar you had the storage space for a spanner and the blaster on the other side. And in the back of the vehicle you had another movable arm with the digger bucket. Also in the set was included 2 small pieces as a material that can be dug out. So about 80 parts or so, but a lot of fun, a lot of equipment, and a lot of ideas. Next set was a middle-size spaceship with only 1 crew member. A red spaceman. Oh, come on. Very sleek design with a new type of wing with a small gap between the front edge and the rear edge. Back then I thought it was supposed to resemble the X-wing design from Star Wars, but I might be wrong. You had two laser cannons in the nose, one on each wing. Classic space emblem on the wide slope. And one of the interesting features of this spaceship was that in case of emergency, the pilot could escape in this kind of escape pod. The biggest set of that year was set 6950. It was a huge rover, well, huge by the standards back then. But at last you got the 8-wheeler with independent suspension, and with the size of the wheels you got truly an off-road capability for the rover. The rear bogie was the steering one. There was 2 crew members. Both of them were the brand new yellow astronauts, which only arrived in 1982. The rocket, it seems a bit small when compared with the size of the launcher. Well, it is fairly tall, but very thin. Oh, it's just the 2x2 round bricks make the rocket. It could be made 4 stud wide. That would look much more impressive. You had four steering wheels mounted on the launcher to act as kind of knobs or valves or whatever you could think of. One of the crew members was the driver. The other one was probably operator of the system. You had 2 computers to operate, to make the rocket work. So in 1982 you didn't get a moon base, and it was the second year in a row without a moon base. You didn't get a large spaceship, but you get a moderate size one. And 2 fairly big rovers, one of them actually a huge rover. And the small number of sets in that year might have suggested that classic space is coming to an end. But in the next chapter you will see that you couldn't be more wrong. So wait for the next chapter.